Do you still remember Good Times, 1974? The show that once made millions of families burst into laughter with its iconic lines. Yet for those who created it, those golden days marked the beginning of their darkest years. One star vanished without a trace, a young talent was rejected by Hollywood, and another spent half a lifetime battling illness. Get ready, because the familiar faces from the Evans household will leave you stunned when you see them now. Esther Rolle as Florida Evans. Esther Rolle was born on November 8, 1920, in Pompano Beach, Florida. At 54 years old, she portrayed Florida Evans, the strong, hard-working black mother whose character became a symbol for millions of American families. Yet to preserve that image, Esther paid with her own health and spirit. Throughout her career, she fought relentlessly for fair representation of black women on screen. While others compromised, she confronted, and her outspoken stance often left her isolated within the industry. Still, she remained steadfast, shining in Summer of My German Soldier, 1978, which earned her an Emmy, followed by acclaimed films such as Driving Miss Daisy, 1989, and Rosewood, 1997. The more success she achieved, the lonelier she became. The studio lights couldn't fill the emptiness of the small apartment she returned to after every shoot. Her 20-year marriage to Oscar Robinson ended quietly. With no children and no family by her side, she buried herself in work. In her later years, diabetes silently ravaged her body, while her finances dwindled due to her demanding schedule and declining health. On November 17, 1998, Esther Rolle passed away in California at the age of 78. Her body was returned to her hometown of Pompano Beach and laid to rest at Westview Cemetery. Her estimated net worth of $2 million could never compensate for the pain of a woman who carried two worlds on her shoulders. John Amos as James Evans. John Amos was born on December 27, 1939, in Newark, New Jersey. At 35 years old, he played James Evans Sr., the strict, principled, yet deeply loving father whose portrayal became engraved in the hearts of audiences in the mid-1970s. It was the role that made him a household name, but also the beginning of years filled with conflict and pain behind the lights. His rapid success brought him fame, but also put him at odds with the show's creative team, where he felt the image of black families was being distorted. Long-running disputes eventually forced him to leave the show in bitterness. Still, he rose again, channeling all his energy into Roots, 1977, where his portrayal of the adult Kunta Kinte brought him to new heights and earned him an Emmy nomination. Years later, his role as the father in Coming to America, 1988, rekindled audience affection, yet loneliness lingered behind the laughter and the flash of cameras. Behind the smile on the red carpet was a heart burdened with loss. 3 failed marriages left him with scars that never healed. In his later years, he became embroiled in a public dispute with his own daughter, who accused him of abuse and exploitation in his final days. Emotional turmoil, coupled with chronic heart failure, slowly drained the life out of the once iron-willed man. On August 21, 2024, John Amos took his final breath in California at the age of 84. His net worth, around $3 million, could not buy back the peace he had lost, nor could it ever measure the worth of what he truly left behind. Jimmie Walker as J.J. Evans. Jimmie Walker was born on June 25, 1947, in Brooklyn, New York. At 27 years old, he brought J.J. Evans to life in CBS's classic sitcom. His character's explosive catchphrase, "Dino Might," became a national phenomenon, propelling Walker to stardom. But it also trapped him in the shadow of his own creation for the rest of his life. Fame came too quickly, leaving Walker caught between the audience's laughter and the cold stares of his peers. Many critics accused him of oversimplifying the show's message, turning black identity into a televised punchline. The tension on set strained his relationships with co-stars John Amos and Esther Rolle, leaving him feeling isolated within the very fictional family audiences adored. Afterward, Walker found solace on smaller stages, touring across America as a stand-up comedian. Supporting roles in Airplane, 1980, and Scrubs helped keep him visible, but the bright lights of Hollywood gradually faded. While his peers settled down, he chose solitude. In a 2012 talk show appearance, Walker stated bluntly that he wasn't born to be a father and never needed marriage. Loneliness became the price of freedom, and that freedom, at times, felt heavier than chains. Today, Jimmie Walker is 78 years old. He still performs on stage, taking his dynamite energy to small theaters where middle-aged audiences laugh more out of nostalgia than joy. His net worth, about $1 million, comes from comedy, commercials, and revisiting the laughter of the past, as if he's still living on the memories that made him. DuBois as Willona Woods. DuBois was born on August 5, 1932, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. At 32 years old, she brought to life Willona Woods, the witty, confident, and charming neighbor everyone loved. Beneath her humor, DuBois infused rare vitality and emotional depth, making her character an inseparable part of American television history. After leaving the small screen, DuBois sought to prove herself in many fields: music, theater, voice acting, and songwriting. She wrote and performed "Movin' On Up," the theme song for The Jeffersons, 1975, which became a cultural anthem of pride and upward aspiration for African Americans. In the 1990s, she won 2 Emmy Awards for her voice work on the animated series The PJs. Yet behind the applause and bright lights was a quiet emptiness. Her marriage to Sajit Krishna Gupta ended when she was still young, leaving her with 4 children and the weight of financial responsibility. Later, she had a meaningful relationship with actor Brock Peters, though they never married. The death of her son, Raj Christo Gupta, from cancer at age 36, plunged her into depression. Her health declined, and she gradually withdrew from Hollywood life. On February 17, 2020, DuBois passed away peacefully in her sleep at her home in Glendale, California, at the age of 77. The cause of death was reported as cardiac arrest. Her estimated net worth was around $2 million. Modest for such an influential career, but for DuBois, art had always been worth far more than money. Bern Nadette Stanis as Thelma Evans. Bern Nadette Stanis was born on December 22, 1953, in Brooklyn, New York. At 21 years old, she portrayed Thelma Evans, the only daughter of Florida and James Evans Sr. Her character presented a fresh, graceful image of black women on American television, but behind that poise were years of private pain only she truly understood. Fame arrived early and consumed her beneath the weight of expectations. After good times ended, Stanis struggled to find her footing in Hollywood. Small roles in The Cosby Show and commercials weren't enough to keep her in the spotlight, but they opened a new path for her: writing. Her books, such as Situations 101, Relationships, became bestsellers, exploring themes of love, betrayal, and self-respect. Stanis's love life was turbulent. 4 marriages and 4 heartbreaks fell apart under the strain of fame and incompatibility. She once admitted that success made people fall in love with her image, not with who she truly was. Still, her 2 daughters, Dior and Brittany, became her source of strength through loneliness. Yet even family stability couldn't shield her from emotional exhaustion. Prolonged stress eventually led her to withdraw from the spotlight and focus on her loved ones. Now, Bern Nadette Stanis is 72 years old. She lives in Atlanta with her children and grandchildren, occasionally appearing at women's conferences and television reunions. Her net worth, estimated at $3 million, isn't enormous, but it's enough for her to live peacefully, far from the noise of fame. Ralph Carter as Michael Evans. Ralph Carter was born on May 30, 1961, in New York City. When the 13-year-old boy stepped onto the screen as Michael Evans, audiences saw in his eyes intelligence, sensitivity, and hope, the very ideals every black family of that era longed for. Carter quickly became one of the most beloved young actors of his generation, but he was also among the first to pay the price of fame. After rising to stardom, Carter tried to escape the shadow of his wholesome teen image by returning to the Broadway stage. In Raisin, 1973, he won the Drama Desk and Theatre World Awards and received a Tony nomination at just 13, a rare feat in American musical history. He later released the album Young and in Love, 1976, and performed on Soul Train, but the entertainment industry had little patience for former child stars. When Hollywood's doors closed, Carter chose a quieter path, teaching, singing, and dedicating himself to stage arts. Growing up too fast under the spotlight, Carter came to understand that fame isn't always a reward. He went through periods of crisis and obscurity, but his family kept him grounded in peace. In 1994, he married River York, who helped him find stability and faith again. Together, they had 5 children and led a private, drama-free life. In 2025, Ralph Carter is 64 years old and still performs occasionally in small theater productions around New York. Sometimes he sings When You're Young and in love for loyal fans who have cherished him for decades. His net worth is estimated at around $1 million, enough to sustain his passion and provide for his family. Janet Jackson as Penny Gordon Woods. Janet Jackson was born on May 16, 1966, in Gary, Indiana. When she played the abused little girl Penny in Good Times, she was only 11 years old, her innocent eyes contrasting sharply with the pain her character endured. That performance moved audiences to tears and set Janet on her own path, separating her from the towering shadow of the Jackson family. After leaving the show, Janet devoted herself entirely to music. From Control, 1986, to Rhythm Nation, 1814, she transformed her childhood pain into a powerful declaration of freedom and self-worth. Yet behind the success were personal tragedies. Her secret marriage to James DuBois ended in heartbreak. Her later relationships with Renee Elizondo and Wissam Almana collapsed, leaving her in deep depression. The infamous 2004 Super Bowl incident led to public backlash. Radio stations banned her songs, and Janet was forced to fight alone to survive Hollywood's cruelty. The tragedies didn't end there. The death of her brother Michael in 2009 pushed her into despair, but it also helped her rediscover the true purpose of her art: healing and remembrance. She made a triumphant return with the album Unbreakable, 2015, and her Together Again tour, 2023 to 2024, became the most successful of her career. Janet still calls the stage the place where I can breathe. With over 100 million records sold, 5 Grammy Awards, and dozens of global records, she has secured her place as one of the greatest female artists in history. Now, Janet Jackson is 59 years old, living in Las Vegas with her son Isa, and continuing to tour. Her estimated net worth exceeds $180 million, though she once said, "Wealth isn't money, it's being able to keep singing." Nearly half a century later, the little girl who played Penny has become a global symbol of strength, rebirth, and courage for generations to come. Johnny Brown as Nathan Bookman. Johnny Brown was born on June 11, 1937, in St. Petersburg, Florida. At 40, he took on the role of Nathan Bookman, the clumsy yet kind-hearted building superintendent. With his lively energy and clever grin, Brown became the comedic soul of the show's later years, bringing warmth and laughter to the often tense stories about working-class black life. Though beloved, Brown faced bitter disappointment early in his career. He was nearly cast in Sanford and Son, but a contract with Laugh-In cost him the role. That lost opportunity haunted him for years, leaving a lingering sense of what might have been. After Good Times, Brown returned to stand-up comedy and appeared in The Jeffersons, Family Matters, and numerous variety shows, though he never again reached his former fame. Still, he continued performing tirelessly until his health could no longer keep up. Offstage, Brown was one of the few comedians known for his stable family life. His decades-long marriage to June Brown became a peaceful harbor amid endless touring. They had 2 children, including actress Sharon Brown. In his later years, he underwent heart treatments and had a pacemaker implanted, yet he kept cracking jokes even in the hospital. On March 2, 2022, Johnny Brown passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 84 after suffering a sudden stroke upon leaving a cardiology appointment. His funeral was simple, attended only by close family and friends. His net worth, around $500,000, came mainly from stage work and commercials. But for Brown, laughter, not money, was the reward he valued most. Ben Powers as Keith Anderson. Ben Powers was born on July 5, 1950, in Brooklyn, New York. At 28 years old, he played Keith Anderson, the football player who marries Thelma. His character brought a mix of romance and tragedy to the final season of Good Times. Audiences loved his sincerity, but few knew that Powers himself lived on the fragile edge between Hollywood's spotlight and the fear of being forgotten. After the series ended, Powers tried to maintain his footing with supporting roles in Laugh-In and Cheech and Chong's next movie, 1980. Despite his acting talent, he struggled to break through. Later projects failed to bring recognition, leaving him with the painful realization of having once been beloved and then quickly replaced. Powers once admitted, "Success came too fast, so when it was gone, I didn't know what to do with the rest of my life." Off-screen, he found solace with Julia Harper, his wife of more than 3 decades and the mother of their 4 children. They lived a quiet, modest life far from Hollywood, in a small home in Massachusetts. But that peace was shattered when Powers was diagnosed with liver cancer. The illness was discovered late, forcing him to withdraw from public life in his final years. On April 6, 2015, Ben Powers passed away in New Bedford at the age of 64. He was cremated, and his ashes were scattered near the Rhode Island coast. His estate, estimated at just $500,000, was small compared to the passion and dedication he once poured into his craft. Moses Gunn as Carl Dixon. Moses Gunn was born on October 2, 1929, in St. Louis, Missouri. At 48 years old, he portrayed Carl Dixon, the calm, warm-hearted man who touched Florida Evans's heart. His performance became both a humanistic highlight of Good Times and a reminder that love can exist even after loss. Before and after that role, Gunn was already a towering figure in American theater. He shined in Shaft, 1971, and Ragtime, 1981, earning a Tony nomination for Best Actor in a Play. Yet behind his deep voice and commanding presence was a silent battle with chronic asthma. Before every performance, he would take his inhaler, then step on stage to fulfill his duty to the audience. Though his career was unpredictable, his marriage provided a rare sense of peace and stability. Gunn shared nearly 3 decades of quiet love with his wife, Gwendolyn Mumalandis, a partnership built on mutual respect and shared purpose. Together, they raised 2 children and co-founded the Negro Ensemble Company. However, the organization faced severe financial struggles, forcing Gunn several times to sell personal possessions to keep it afloat. Sadly, Moses Gunn passed away in 1993 at the age of 64, following complications from asthma. After years of financial strain supporting both his company and family, his net worth was estimated at around $1 million, most of it earned from the stage rather than the screen. Chip Fields as Lynetta Gordon. Chip Fields was born on August 5, 1951, in the United States. At 26 years old, she played Lynetta Gordon, the abusive biological mother of young Penny, a performance that made viewers both furious and heartbroken. Her unforgettable scene slapping Janet Jackson became one of the most powerful television moments of the 1970s, portraying domestic abuse with haunting realism. After that success, Chip stepped away from acting and moved behind the camera as a director. She went on to direct numerous sitcoms such as Girlfriends 2000 to 2008 and One-on-One 2001 to 2006, quietly becoming a mentor for the next generation. Her decision wasn't due to lost passion, but to the harsh truth that Hollywood had little space left for middle-aged black women. Part of that choice was also practical. She needed financial stability while raising her two daughters, Kim Fields and Alexis Fields, who both followed in her footsteps as actresses. Her marriage to cinematographer Irv Hurd brought a rare sense of stability in the entertainment world. They worked together, shared projects, and became a symbol of enduring love amid the turbulence of show business. Thanks to that support, Chip kept directing, though she later reduced her workload to focus more on family. By 2025, Chip Fields is 74 years old, living peacefully in Los Angeles and occasionally appearing at Good Times cast reunions. Her net worth is estimated at around $2 million, mostly from her work as a director and television coach. Raymond Allen as Ned the Wino. Raymond Allen was born on March 5, 1929 in Kansas City, Missouri. At 45 years old, he took on the role of Ned the Wino, the humorous yet tragic alcoholic drifter in Good Times. His portrayal turned what might have been a minor character into a poignant reminder of humanity amid the poverty of Chicago's South Side. Behind that humor, however, was a very real sadness in his own life. Fame came late and left early. Allen also appeared in Sanford and Son, 1972 to 1977, as Woody Anderson, and in Starsky and Hutch, 1975 to 1979, though mostly in small roles. As age and illness set in, Hollywood stopped calling, leaving few opportunities for older black actors. He retreated from the spotlight, surviving on residual checks and occasional fan conventions. The death of his son, Raymond Jr., devastated him, and chronic respiratory illness began to take its toll. His marriage to Barbara Williams, which lasted from 1963 to 1977, ended quietly, leaving him to raise two daughters alone. Even after retiring for health reasons, Allen continued signing autographs and meeting fans. He once wrote on social media, "I may not act anymore, but my audience still makes me feel alive." In August 2020, Raymond Allen passed away in California at the age of 91 from respiratory complications. His daughter, Terrence Allen, announced the news with a heartfelt message. "My father has finally found peace after a lifetime of bringing laughter to others." The funeral was simple, and on his gravestone, his family engraved 4 words: "Forever laughing, always kind." His net worth, about $300,000, was modest, a reminder that what he valued most was not wealth, but the love of those who still called him Ned. John Bailey as Cletus. John Bailey was born on June 4, 1947, in Cleveland, Ohio. At 27 years old, he played Cletus, Florida's lighthearted and funny nephew in Good Times, 1974. Few knew that behind the cheerful young actor was an artist driven by passion, yet haunted by fear of failure. After leaving the sitcom, Bailey explored a variety of genres, from the children's show Wonderbug to the comedy The Kentucky Fried Movie, 1977. He later voiced the animated series Rickety Rocket, 1979, showcasing rare versatility. But when Hollywood turned its back, he drifted toward documentary filmmaking, and later, controversially, into the adult film industry under the stage name Jack Baker. It was a shocking pivot he would later describe as a mistake made to survive. Though he appeared in hundreds of films, most were minor comedic roles, and the artistic pride he once held gradually gave way to quiet shame. By age 40, Bailey was diagnosed with bladder cancer, a disease that crept in silently and never let go. He kept working, directing small independent documentaries to make ends meet, hiding his illness from colleagues because, as he said, "I don't want people to remember me out of pity." His net worth was estimated at about $200,000, mostly from his voice work. Sadly, on November 13, 1994, John Bailey passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 47. He was buried in a Los Angeles County cemetery. Years later, fans rediscovered his name and began calling him the forgotten talent of good times. And indeed, he was. Albert Reed, Jr. as Alderman Fred C. Davis. Albert Reed, Jr. was born on January 27, 1922, in Kentucky. At 52 years old, he played Alderman Fred C. Davis, the sly yet colorful local politician in Good Times. With his commanding voice and dignified presence, he brought the character to life far beyond expectations, making audiences both laugh and fume at the same time. Off-screen, Reed lived a double life. By day, he was an airport security officer in Los Angeles, and by night, he was a television actor. He even appeared in Airport, 1970, as an aviation police lieutenant. However, maintaining such a stable career came at a steep price. Stress, exhaustion, and chronic sleep deprivation were his constant companions. The toll on his health led to repeated hospitalizations for fatigue, yet he kept working, driven by duty to his family and a deep belief that black professionals could and should hold positions of authority. Little is known about Reed's personal life, except that he lived modestly and avoided scandal. Colleagues described him as disciplined, devoted, and carrying himself with the quiet dignity of a soldier. His net worth was estimated at around $400,000, accumulated through his dual careers in security and acting. Sadly, on May 31, 1986, Albert Reed, Jr. passed away in California at the age of 64 from undisclosed causes. News of his death appeared only as a small note in local papers, yet to those who worked with him, he remained a symbol of endurance and integrity. Brenda Sykes as Mandy. Brenda Sykes was born on June 25, 1949, in Shreveport, Louisiana. At 25 years old, she played Mandy, one of J.J. Evans' girlfriends, a character of soft elegance, grace, and vitality in Good Times. Though her appearance was brief, Sykes brought a rare feminine warmth to the show, becoming a symbol of beauty and sophistication on 1970s black television. She later rose to prominence in Black Gunn, 1972, alongside Jim Brown, and appeared in the streets of San Francisco, but that spotlight quickly faded. Hollywood at the time offered few roles for black women, especially for those unwilling to compromise their image. Brenda chose to step away from film, turning to theater and television hosting, distancing herself from the temptations of fame. Yet destiny had an even greater challenge waiting in her personal life. Her first marriage to musician Gil Scott-Heron, 1978 to 1987, was a love story both beautiful and turbulent. As he sank deeper into addiction and depression, Brenda tried to save him with love, but in the end, she had to let go. They had one daughter, poet Gia Scott-Heron, who became her greatest comfort through those painful years. Later, Brenda remarried Paul Claude Hudson and chose a peaceful life, far from the glare and chaos of Hollywood. In 2025, Brenda Sykes is 76 years old, living in California with her husband and daughter. She occasionally appears at events honoring black cinema. Her net worth is estimated at around $1 million, modest, but enough for a comfortable, quiet life. People remember her not for fame, but for her gentle beauty, warm smile, and her graceful decision to leave Hollywood on her own terms. It's hard to believe, isn't it? The faces that once made America laugh now carry stories filled with heartbreak and resilience. Which of them moved or surprised you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so we can continue uncovering the untold secrets of Hollywood together.